What's up, fuck sticks? I'm just kidding. You know I love you. Now get out of here. Laundry's not going to do itself, you know. I'm just kidding. Welcome to the Avarice podcast, Avarice Trading channel on YouTube, Avarice Trading on Instagram. I'm Devin. We're doing another movie commentary today. We are getting a small breath of slightly fresh air. It's a little bit stagnant, but compared to what we were just getting with Halloween 5 and 6, I think it is an improvement. Basically, 6 kind of killed it. The horror genre, the slashers, were not doing well in the mid-90s, and as I have said in a previous video and review, what happens a lot of times with movies like this is you'll have one that comes out and it's good, and then the next one will be kind of mediocre, but people will still go see it because they liked the one before, and it'll still make money. So they'll go ahead and greenlight another one, and people don't go see that one because they didn't like the one before, even though it made money. So that's kind of the situation we had with 4, 5, and 6. 4 was decent. It was respectable. People liked it. People paid to see it. It made money, so they greenlit 5 a year later. 5 was horrible, but people still went to see it because they liked 4, so it made a reasonable amount of money. Enough money that they decided to make 6. Well, actually, they didn't make 6 until 6 years later because 5 was dog shit and painted them into a lot of corners. And it took a fan writing a script and submitting it to try to make sense of it all to get something they could actually put out with that had some semblance of logic and reality to it, I guess. Even though that was a major pile of crap. It under-explained itself and overcomplicated things. Anywho. So after that, you have the release of Scream, which I believe is 96? I would have to look that up. But right around 96, 97 is when Scream comes out. And Scream changes the whole game. Scream is a really fresh take on the horror and slasher genre. And it's very aware of itself and aware of other movies in the past in the genre. And it respects the audience's intelligence when it comes to previous movies. It has a lot of tips of the cap to other movies. It's very meta. And it really just was kind of like the first Halloween. People didn't like it. It got bad reviews critically. But then once people started going to the theater and telling their friends and going back and seeing it again, it kind of built up this great following and a lot of success. So then they went ahead and slammed out Scream 2, kind of like I was just talking about. Scream 2 was decent, though. I know that this is supposed to be about Halloween, but I'm getting there. So anyway, you had the success of those movies, and that led them to go ahead and bring back Michael Myers. And they came strong with it. They brought back Jamie Lee Curtis to play Laurie Strode. We haven't had her since 1981 in Halloween 2. You've got kind of this young, fresh cast. We've got LL Cool J in it. And it's, for the first time, I won't say since the first time, because, of course, the ones that Carpenter shot, or the one Carpenter shot in 78, then the sequel in 81, they had their unique look, and that's the way film, I don't know that they could have done better. HD wasn't a thing then. HD wasn't a thing when H20 came out either. But I think just they were limited in their capabilities, quality-wise, lighting-wise, color-wise, back then. And then I don't know if it's the same case once we get into the late 80s and mid-90s with how 4, 5, and 6 are shot. But they have a cheapness to them. They feel cheap as you're watching them. Something's just off about the color. I don't know what it is. But this one actually, seems produced and polished and put out. Hold on. Okay, I had to pause recording there for a minute. That was something creepy always has to happen when you're doing one of these fucking things. You talk about scary movies and Halloween and all that jazz, and you got to hear some noise across the house and wonder what it was. And plus, I'm kind of attached to this seat right now while I'm recording. So I have to go through the process of pausing if I want to go investigate. It ended up being nothing, which maybe is worse than having identified it, because uh, we all know from the movies when it seems like nothing, it's usually something. I think that my dog did something and made some kind of noise. I don't really know what happened. Anyway, so like I was saying, this is a really polished, high quality seeming one. It does have some issues with the mask and the portrayal of Michael, which is, you know, the main issue with almost all the sequels. It's just not quite the same. The mask to me is amazing. How many failed attempts there are to recreate that mask. Like, it just doesn't seem that hard. It seems like you would be able to get your hands on the original mold and just have it mocked up the way that one was. Like, even when they kind of get the shape right, they get the hair wrong. But most of the time they get the shape and the hair wrong. You know, the shape of the face, the contour, the color. It looks kind of purplish in 6. The hair is not quite right. 5 is just way off in almost every way. 4, it's too white. It's bumpy. It has sideburns. The hair is wrong. This one, they cycle through a few different masks. The story is not the best. It's kind of sanitary, I would say. It's kind of clinical in its approach. I think it was trying to reach a certain audience, and I think it was successful in that, and it was a respectable entry in the franchise. It was a movie that somebody who wasn't a hardcore fan of Halloween could watch and sit through and have a decent time. Some of us that are super hardcore into these, we don't have a problem watching 5 and 6, but if you try to talk one of your friends who's not a major fan of slashers and Halloween, etc., into watching that and then sit down, you will feel uncomfortable. You want to crawl inside of your own asshole because they're just so bad, and you don't really realize it until you're sitting in the presence of somebody whose opinion you care about. And this was a movie that you could actually, put up and say like, hey, this is a Halloween movie. But it has a lot of elements borrowed from Scream. They really fucked over the score. They brought in it's this whole orchestra thing, which really defeats the purpose of. Anyway, I don't want to get into my whole description of the movie and everything before I even start it. So I'll give you guys a second to cue it up if you're going to watch along. This is Halloween H20. I'm watching the Blu-ray version. I don't know that there's any special cuts or anything like that or unrated. I'm just this standard-ass Halloween H20. So, I do have to say, the fucking covers. We got into this period of time from 4 through Resurrection where even the new one in 2018, all the goddamn covers look almost identical. It's all the mask or a portion of the mask and then a few of the cast members, and it's just can we come up with an original looking fucking poster style cover for these movies instead of just half the mask? Can we do that? Would that be so hard? It just seems like it's an afterthought every time. Or they have some template they use. They just pull it up and it's insert Michael here, insert cast members here, insert title of movie, submit, and you're done. When when I'm pulling them up on my TV and I'm looking at all of them side by side, it's there's not a lot to tell them apart. The first 2 are reasonably distinct. They're pumpkins instead of Michael, and the Rob Zombie ones are distinct because the first one has the orange face, and it's not so much the mask as a collage of images. And then the second one has Michael's whole upper torso and he's swinging a knife, which is kind of funny because the cover of Halloween 2 is a snap from the best part of the movie, which is the first half hour, and it's a dream sequence. So it's super misleading, kind of like how the cover of Halloween 4 was. They put that beautiful original mask on the cover of 4 and then gave you that dog shit one. So I'm about ready here, everybody. I'll count down from 3 and then press play. So we're playing in 3, 2, 1, play. Bum 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 bum. So immediately we've got the callback to the second one. I don't believe the song was in the first one, but this was for sure in the second one a couple of times, if not a few. Um, I guess it's kind of an implication like that Michael is the Sandman or going along with that boogeyman thing. Look at that vintage Ford Fiesta. That is beautiful. That's a paper route car if I've ever seen one. While I'm on the topic, Paper Route or Paperboy podcast, I just dropped first episode of that. You can find it on my Avarice podcast on SoundCloud, or go to my Instagram, Avarice Trading, and in my bio there's a link to with the RSS, all that good shit. Back to this, this is the smoking nurse, always smoking, from the first and second one, and she is coming home. And for some reason, the light out front's been broken, even though it's light outside, and her door is ajar. So it was cool. They knew that for the hardcore fans, they needed to work some elements, some callbacks to the other ones in it, and so they just started right off the bat with her. And it starts with, somewhat suspenseful moments, but then we've got to go into these teenagers that feel real. I know what you did last summer, Scream, 10 Things I Hate About You types. But it is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, so it's cool that he's in a Halloween movie. I don't know where these kids' parents are or how they have that badass muscle car, but that Skylark is on point. And then I guess a nod to Jason with the fucking Halloween or the hockey mask. Jimmy been suspended 5 times this year already for getting a little crazy with the stick. Yeah. 4-9. When this came out, I was 11 years old. I probably was 12 years old by the time I saw it. And I didn't know if he was being serious when he said that. Because there's always this, as you're growing up, there's always a little bit of mystery to the world because you're not quite sure exactly how things work for older people until you get to their age. And you realize they don't know how it works for them either. But I was like, is he really hitting people with this stick at school? Is that like a reality that's possible? I didn't get it. I didn't know if he was an actual badass or if he was pretending to be badass. Vans. I had shoes that looked like that, but they were Airwalks. I was poor. These kids could stand to have a slightly more hip-hop influence in their attire, given what time of it was in history. 98. That's a heavily hip-hop influenced time. As, I mean, most times have been ever since hip-hop started. Jimmy been suspended 5 times this year already for getting a little crazy with the stick. Okay. Oh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you beautiful bastard. He's just a little baby in this. Like, nobody knew that he was going to become, like, super leading man, hilarious but a good actor at the same time material at this point. Like, even in 10 Things I Hate About You, he's kind of an ancillary character. He does a great job, but he's kind of, he's not the jock or the model or any of that. But he sprouted nicely. That was a cocoon that turned into a butterfly. I'm sounding really gay right now. He takes a bite of one cookie and then drops it. And then he steals 2 beers so he can go home and get a headache. 2 beers. What are you gonna? Oh man! But back then we did have huge pockets in our pants. Try to shove a bottle of beer in your pants pocket now with fucking skinny jeans. I love that after he goes outside, he just tells her the kitchen was already fucked up when he went in because she doesn't know better. So he just totally gets away with that. But they called the cops before he went in for breaking and entering. He went in and scouted the whole house supposedly, and now it's pitch black dark and the cops still haven't shown up.
Yeah, just crap everywhere. Oh, and also they messed up your kitchen really bad. Good night.
Yeah, so much for the cops, she says. Like, this is supposed to be a small town. I don't think this is Haddonfield. I think this is like Langdon or something. It says at the beginning, which I don't really understand the point of that. I guess because this is supposed to be where Loomis lived and she took care of him, that they wouldn't live in Haddonfield. It wouldn't really make sense for them to do that. There's some Halloween decorations and stuff up. This is the only time that you really feel like it is the Halloween holiday. Power is out. So Michael's kind of set this scene. He's gone there, he's gotten the information he wanted, and he's now cut the power and he's gonna stalk her seemingly for fun. He doesn't need to get it. He apparently found the address, etc., in this office here. There's Loomis, so we're kind of given a hint that he's looking through Loomis's stuff. So this one took an interesting turn, and basically, we're the assumption, at least to the audience and to me, is that we're ignoring 4, 5, and 6. This is picking up after 2. So Michael disappeared after that hospital fire. Nobody found his body. Who knows what he's been doing since then? Um, Even though the second movie was filmed in 81, it was supposed to take place on the original 1978. So this is supposed to be 20 years later. Who knows literally what Michael's been doing since then? They don't account for that. They don't explain it at all. And he essentially has now decided to track down Loomis's old residence because Loomis has passed away, and he's decided to find Laurie's file, see where she went, and go pursue her. Strange that he would wait for so long. Really wonder what he was doing in the in between time. There are holes in the story, the lore of Michael, if you wanted to go back and make not prequels, but like stuff that kind of fits in between. But it would be difficult to do because how do you come up with the numbering system and identify it so people know where they fit in the lore and how to make sense of it? See, that mask looked okay to me when he first turns like that. I like this flip of the knife. He's doing all right so far. This one, he's going to smell bacon in a second. What? I think he literally only did that drastic turn so he could have his back to her in this shot right here. Like, it didn't make sense. He's almost facing the wall. But this music, this over-the-top score with just so much going on and so many instruments and trying so heavily to influence your emotions. And it's a bit overpowering, honestly. I think this opening scene might be the same mask as Halloween 6. And I think it might be the best looking one in the whole movie. If we're being real. But going back to the score, the point of Carpenter's score was that it was simple. It didn't need a big orchestra or anything. It could be done by 1 or 2 guys in a room just pounding it out. No homo. And then with this one, they took his simplified thing that you could just do on a computer by yourself, and they brought in this whole huge orchestra to do it. That fucking car would be making so much noise. It's a loud car. Smart on Michael to wait to turn the headlights on, though. But anyway, yeah, so they took something that was simple on purpose and perfect in its simplicity, and they decided to make it complicated. A complicated copy of something that was intended to be simple, and it just wasn't great. And they rescored a lot of it. In a documentary I saw, they played clips where it was playing the intended music that the person who scored the film wanted to play for the whole, and it was garbage. Just bumping, bum, 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 like just drowning out any type of connection you could have to the scene visually. It is kind of funny that who drew that sketch of Michael and why does he have it up on the wall? Like he needs to remember what the mask looks like? Or to have a little bit of continuity so that later we don't get pissed about this mask not looking right. Like, look, it's the same as the one on the wall. This guy's way too cynical. Michael would be 41 years old in this storyline. Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl today and he's 40. Like, to think that he couldn't kill people, especially if they're not expecting it. It's not like he's heavyweight champion of the world. He's not boxing. He's stalking people and killing them with a knife. The knife really levels the playing field, especially when you're somewhat superhuman and only 41 years old. I think he can handle this. This was the 90s. We still hadn't realized that people were going to age a lot more gracefully than they had in human history to that point. Like, when I was a kid, I thought that 50 years old, you're done. You know? And now it's like, my dad is 50. Of course, you have a weird perception of time when you're a kid. You're only 5 years old. A year is 20% of your life. So to imagine that you're going to live, 10 times as long as you have, and it's just, I think you would have to have a different perception of time as you get older because relative each year is less percentage-wise of your actual life. Anyway, back to the movie here. In this opening scene, it did a decent job of getting somebody to do this Loomis impression, but it's not great. The first couple times you hear it, you just pass it off. Oh, it's Loomis. But then the more you hear it, it's too slow, and it doesn't have enough influence of an English accent, I think. But it works, and I like the callback to Loomis. They're acknowledging him. They're working him into the story, even though he's dead. So he's still the only person besides Michael, or the only character besides Michael in the Shape, to have been in every single one of the movies thus far, besides Season of the Witch, but we don't count that one, let's be honest. That's the black sheep of the family. See, survivor of Halloween murders killed in auto accident. So the thought that I've wondered is if this isn't supposed to take place on the exact same timeline as 4, 5, and 6. Because later in this she says she faked her death. It would be kind of a piece of shit thing to do, to fake your death and leave your kid behind. And I think in 4 they say that Jamie's dad died in the crash also. But you could, in theory, fit this in with 4, 5, and 6 if Lori just faked her death and moved and left her daughter there. Because then all that stuff was happening while she was here establishing her new life. And now he's done with that, and he's, I guess, but then you would be ignoring everything was left open at the end of the other movie. I'm pretty sure it was intended to be ignoring all the other sequels. It's supposed to be like she just 1 and 2 happened, and then we've had a 20-year gap, and then now we're here. I think that's what they wanted Josh Hartnett's haircut to look like. Apparently there was a big dispute between him and the production about his hairstyle, and he kept wearing a fucking beanie in between takes to smash his hair down to get that goofy fucking whatever he's got. They ended up becoming kind of his trademark later on. This is his first movie, I think. Now we got a flashback to one of the best scenes ever, and you get to see that beautiful mask for a split second. Good old shark fin stabbed in the face. Oh, he knows your real name. And now we get the Scream Queen back, and she lets out this great, callback to her defining moment as the Scream Queen in the original Halloween movie. And here comes good old Josh Heartthrob Hartnett running in with his goofy fucking haircut and his oversized clothes. See, this is what I meant by the hip-hop influence. Those kids should have been dressed more like him. His clothes are 4 sizes too big. That's just what we did then. That was what was cool. Heavily influenced by hip-hop and, poor culture, honestly. That came from hand-me-downs. Kids started wearing baggy clothes because they couldn't afford new ones, and they were just wearing their older siblings' clothes that couldn't fit them anymore, or their cousins' clothes, whatever. And then that became the style to where you bought clothes on purpose that didn't fit you. To this day, I still like kind of a loose, baggy sweatshirt. You can just move around better in it. I was never on board with the super baggy long shorts, though, that go below your knee. Like, if you're legitimately doing something athletic and you try to run in those fucking things, your knees get bound up. Like, they connect, they hook over the end of your knee, and your stride isn't as long as it would normally. I like shorts that are above the knee for running and playing soccer and things of that nature. See, we got leaves on the ground here, but everything is green, and we're supposed to be in California. It doesn't really feel like fall. That's the thing. It's like a very Scream-like Halloween movie. Even the fact that it takes place in California, I don't even know where Scream was supposed to take place, Massachusetts or something. But they kind of sanitized some of the things that make Halloween Halloween away in an attempt, in my opinion, of reaching a broader audience. And I think they did a reasonable job. If this movie didn't have Jamie Lee Curtis, they would have had problems. I don't think it would have played nearly as well, but she really carried the day because she was returning, and that was a big deal. Your overprotection and paranoia is inhibiting my growth. That fucking choker thing he's got on, that is one of the dumbest looking things I've ever seen. Can't believe people. I was younger than this then, so I wasn't quite into that level of fashion and wearing necklaces and being a heartthrob with chokers on and bullshit. Ugh.
I know you get your smart mouth.
So he would probably be. He's a couple years younger than Jamie if she were to exist in this timeline. Jamie supposedly was 9 in 89. And so she was born in 80. So he was born in 91 or 81? No. Yeah, 81. So he would have been a year younger than Jamie if they existed in the same timeline. Now we're introduced to Robert Parrish from Jumanji and Taylor Vaughn from She's All That. What's interesting is that she's really hot, and they kind of like dressed her down in this and made her look less attractive with the dark hair and the grunge look. If you've ever seen She's All That, like she's the bitch popular chick that's, on MTV, and she's Matthew Lillard's chick. She breaks up with Freddie Prinze Jr. at the beginning of the movie. She's like the it chick. And I wonder if maybe I know that there's this thing like in Hollywood, they don't want two blondes, so they made her brown haired because they had Michelle Williams and she's blonde, or what the decision was there. Of course, Jamie's legit fucked up. She sees images, she takes a bunch of pills. It's really like almost the opposite of what she is in the new sequel in 2018. In that one, she's super prepared. She's fucked up. She's an alcoholic. She's all that. She runs her relationships, but she set out to create herself into turn herself into a monster that's bigger than Michael, that can handle Michael. Whereas in this one, she's kind of got a victim's mentality. She's real emotional. She's waiting for something to happen. She's on edge, but she doesn't seem as prepared and badass as she does in the newer one. Like, what is that haircut? It's like, I can't even, like, he's got like the fucking Jim Carrey pumpkin pie haircut from Dumb and Dumber in the front, and then these weird sideburns that are too long, and then it's like feathered upward in the back. This is a badass old car, but I wonder if Michael was pissed off. He's like, you wait all day for somebody to show up so you can steal your car, and they show up in a 1954 POS. Like, look at that fucking thing. How far can you drive that on a tank of gas? 3 miles? Doesn't even look real. Looks like a car a kid would draw in a picture. Not even slightly suspicious of the abandoned car with a shredded tire. It'd be a funny scene to see Michael pull in there with the fucked up tire and try to change it. Maybe he doesn't know about spares. They didn't teach him that. in the driving lessons.
The boys are supposed to deal with it.
You don't wonder why the door is locked? Like, do those doors... I would be slightly suspicious and eerie of the situation, I think. And I'm not a woman. You know, I would guess that I feel much more comfortable handling myself and taking care of myself in situations like this than she does. And she seems a little bit, I mean, I guess you got your little kid, they're going to go to the bathroom. She probably assumes the car was just left there and the people got a ride somewhere. How does she know there's no toilet paper in the other one? She looks at hers and sees no toilet paper, and she's like, yeah, I know yours doesn't have toilet paper either. Duh. And this is an interesting scene because it's passive, Michael. He scares her a bit, but he doesn't really even attempt to come after them or kill them. He doesn't rattle the door. He's snatch and run. Again, kind of the more sanitized version. Michael's never had a problem killing women. In fact, it's what he prefers. But the kid thing, until the newest one in 2018, he'd never killed a kid at all. But I guess he had tried in 4 and 5 with Jamie. But this was a very eerie moment. The first time when you see this, because you don't know what he's doing. And you know that little girl's over there and vulnerable, and she doesn't really have a way to get over there without going out in the environment he's in. And then the kid screams, and you're like, fuck. Kids are dumb like that. I like how her keys were right on top, and he just tore the purse apart and threw all the shit on the ground to get to him. I don't even know exactly what Yosemite is. Is it a state park or something? Or sounds like a place you ski, like Aspen, Yosemite.
That means no musical sleeping bag, no booze, no drugs, no kidding. Undoubtedly, someone will ruin it for the rest of them.
There is the Jewish Nazi guy from Sons of Anarchy. This group of friends is constructed oddly. The 3 on the right definitely fit together, but this kind of off-brand, fugly kid, not so much. Like, these look like they would be the popular it kids in the school, except for him. And she is much too beautiful to be dating him. In college, where looks carry or high school, where looks carry the day, at least they did when I was going to school, and they did back then, that would not be the couple that would be formed, I don't think. Unless she does have some weird things, like she wants to get big and dumpy, and they're like into weird animal sex games and stuff, or at least stuff is explored conversationally in that regard. So maybe that's the attraction, but he doesn't seem to fit with them. That's Jamie Lee Curtis's real life mom. She was murdered in the shower in Psycho. I always like how they walk into her office, but it looks like they're outside with the brick and everything. It looks like they went outside, but they're in her office. And it is revealed that she's, having a relationship with this counselor that works at the school. He is to George Clooney what Donnie Wahlberg is to Mark Wahlberg. It's like he's the brother who isn't quite, like as undeniably good looking, but he's close enough where he can definitely get a lot of poontang using it at a bar. Hey, I'm George Clooney's, younger brother, whatever. I started smoking when I was in high school. It stunted my growth. What do you want from me? That hairstyle that it showed him having in that picture, by the time I got to school, so many dudes had that hairstyle. But it was shorter, but the top, you had that kind of faux mohawk, shark thin fucking thing on top of their head. Everybody had that goddamn thing. Not me. Once I got to the age where my parents started making me pay to get haircuts, I stopped paying for haircuts. I paid to have my own haircut for like maybe a semester or something. And then I was like, fuck this, I'm going to be shaving my head from now on. Which I no longer do. But that was what I did then. And I didn't have to worry about... It was also the most efficient because I could wake up and get dressed and leave for school without having to worry about what my hair looked like. I didn't have to put water in it and try to comb it or make a fucking cowlick go down. It's just clean and smooth, like Ronnie. No, I didn't do it that short, but I would do it on the lowest setting. Just fucking... Back before it was such a hot button topic, people used to make, like Nazi youth jokes or whatever, but nobody would dare say anything like that nowadays with such, I can't even think of the word. If I'm being honest, I'm a little bit petering out. This movie just doesn't have as much to talk about as some of the others. It's just not quite as interesting. There's not as many hints to the lore or stuff like that. It's a little clean, a little slow. And feels like summertime. It feels like a summer movie, which I believe it was. I think it came out in the summer. The name, Halloween H20. I was, in like fucking... what grade are you in when you're 11? I was like 5th grade, 4th grade, something. I remember being at soccer practice and me and the kids on my soccer team were making fun of the name being Halloween H20. We were like, hey, Culligan, man, my water is murdering me. And shit like that. It was funny. But I do gotta give it props. The commercial would scare me. Like, these movies hold a special place in my heart, the Halloween movies, because Michael tormented me in many a nightmare. And if I was home alone and the commercial, the trailer for this movie came on, I would have to leave the room or turn the TV off or something, because they had that scene where she sees him for the first time, and they're looking through that circular glass in the doorway, and you see his mask real close up, and he's kind of tilted his head. That would terrify me. And it was even the shitty mask, not the one we just saw there, the kind of less descript, more sleek, kind of smaller alien head looking one. Laurie is a power drinker in this one. This movie is, like, almost could be the death of Laurie Strode. Like, I know that we wouldn't have been able to bring her back for the 2018 one, and that would have kind of sucked. But they have a nice arc in this one. She is super damaged and struggling with it. They go into a lot of development to expose how much trouble she's had with it, and they're building towards her flipping later in the movie and deciding she's had enough and she's going to settle this once and for all with Michael. And it was just a nice kind of, if you're going to bring her back for a one-off and make the driving force of the movie her, because most of this movie is about her, then it just seems fitting that she would have ended it there. Especially since they half-assed killed her. I guess they did kill her in Resurrection. So she could have died in this one, and we still could have had the 2018 one. Because 2018 ignored everything after Halloween 2. Which is kind of what this one, which is exactly what this one did. So if you look at it that way, this could have been what 2018 is. And 2018 is much better than this movie. But again, at the time, it wasn't horrible. But you remember me saying that I was terrified of Michael Myers in these movies at that age. I was able to watch this one and stomach it reasonably well without getting super scared, whereas some of the other ones would still get to me. So it was a little bit pulled back. It was a bit pussified compared to some other things. But we were coming off of 6, which was super over the top. Like, you had the really cool scene where he's murdering all the doctors and stuff, but that's getting a bit gory and stuff for the general public. And then you had the bullshit scene where the dad's head explodes and the guy's neck breaking through his skin, and it's just and Jamie's death on that whatever that machine was that like sawed her in half. So you were coming from that to this. This is just so much cleaner. And I guess it has to do with the age I was when it came out, why I like this one, I guess. Because I could see some people who were older and got exposed to 6 and really liked the viciousness of Michael and the gore, etc. And then to have to pull back into this, it's almost like when Metallica put out the Black Album and you're like, well, no, not even the Black Album, like Reload. When Metallica cut their hair and went a little bit more mainstream. And their hardcore fans were like, fuck this, but the general public liked it. That's kind of what this movie was like. I've always thought it would have been super obvious to her that he has a bottle of booze hidden in his jacket. Who holds their arm like that naturally in their jacket?
What the fuck do you think you're doing?
I'm really uncomfortable with you saying that.
Well, then don't.
You're 17 years old, pussy.
Shit, what do you think you can do?
So has she been a fucking basket case for 20 consecutive Halloweens, even though nothing has happened?
17 years.
I need you to be responsible. Do you know what that means?
Like the farther we get away from the original and they try to do these movies where nothing has happened in between, it does seem like her paranoia is a little bit not illegitimate, but just irrational. She nothing, to her knowledge, nothing has happened with him in 20 years and she's still this fucked up about it. It seems like time heals all wounds. Seems like you would get over that a little bit, especially with no news. Granted, if you saw him or any news came up that, you know, was related to him and and thinking he was alive, all those feelings would be brought back to the surface. But it seems like she'd be able to bury it and get by a little bit better than this at this point. Like her son's saying.
Don't you think he would have shown up by now?
Like, it clearly seems to have no effect on him. The battle over Hartnett's hair is really an interesting story behind the scenes of this, because he even said he cut his own hair a couple times, and I can tell by looking at it that, like, the front top area is shorter than almost the entire rest of it. It's like he did that to give himself this fucked up look in this flat front. He didn't want the spiked up look that most people were going for. She smirks when that comes on the radio, but she would have... That song doesn't mean shit to her besides the fact that it was a popular song on the radio. Only the audience heard that song. She does that. There's no correlation between Michael Myers and that song to her. God damn, that Blimmy was brand new then. A Blimmy is a blazer with Jimmy parts found in a junkyard. I can't believe they actually called it a Jimmy. Like... What should we name this model of vehicle? How about Jimmy? Yeah, people won't mind saying they left their Jimmy in the driveway or things of that sort. I should say that I got a new 58-inch TV since the last time I saw this. And I could actually see the mask slightly through the driver's side window of that car when Michael was there just now. Never noticed that before. So some of the elements that people have problems with is like the mask switches out quite a few times. They filmed almost the entire movie with a shit mask and then decided it didn't look right. And then they went back and reshot with the mask that you've been seeing for the most part throughout the film. But they only filmed the close shots and shots where it was, you know, in focus right on the face. Stuff where you just kind of see profile views or it's from far away. They left the older mask in. And I actually didn't even notice it until, you know, HD came out and Blu-rays and big TVs. When this came out, I don't even know if DVDs were a thing in 98. And if they were brand new and not very many people had them. And you were balling if you had a 35-inch tube TV and you were watching this on a VHS. So a lot of the wide shots and the long, you couldn't tell he was wearing the wrong mask, but I really can now. So it's one of those things that becomes worse as time progresses. Whereas at the time, it was pulled off reasonably well. Later, I'll give you some examples and point out, when it's switching back and forth. It's fairly clear. And once you know to look for it, it kind of bothers you. But when I didn't know to look for it and couldn't tell, it didn't take me out of the movie at all. And then there's the one scene where the mask is digital, which is like, oh man, no matter where we are technologically in our advancements for computer graphics and things of that, we always are way too happy with where we're at. We always think that it needs to be interjected into all these situations that history does not look upon kindly. We just fall a little bit too in love with what we're able to do, special effects, synthetically, even synth music in the 80s. And that mask was a clear example. Like, we'll just film it normal and then we'll digitally impose a mask on his fucking face. Yeah, that won't look like Nintendo 64 graphics at all. That's going to look good. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the scene where he kills Jumanji Kid. Which we don't actually see the kill, but where he's face to face with him, and the mask looks all gray and weird and like it's painted on. It's because it's digital.
Occurred to me today that I've never celebrated Halloween.
This seems like this would be an actual couple, except for his haircut.
Well, we've got a psychotic serial killer in the family who loves to butcher people on Halloween.
And that fucking choker. Oh my god.
Bad taste, too.
Are you just keeping that warm for her? That's not yours, right, dude?
Because there comes a point in your life where you have to concentrate on what's right about it.
Okay, so apparently my shit's frozen. Oh, now it started again. He's gonna tell her she's a sterling example of everything that's right. Which is like, cool, dude. It's kind of cheeseball, but whatever. They work this shit into almost every movie. Now we're going to have our discussion about fate. Which at this point in the franchise is actually only the second time it's happened. But then we get it again in Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, and then we get it again in Halloween 2018. They're all variations on the same thing. They're not exactly the same. But, see, that mask he's wearing there is fucking bad. That's the bad one.
Do you have any thoughts?
But again, VHS 35-inch TV, couldn't really see what the mask looked like, to be honest. Not through that little hole in the fence. See, they always use these classroom scenes as an exposure of the story arc of the main character. So in the first movie, it was the character's fate. There was nothing they could do about it. It was just what was going to happen. It was like the sun rising, rain falling from the sky. It just is what it is. Can't avoid it. Now, in this one, the story is about a character losing somebody close to them because they were so paralyzed by their own fear that they couldn't do anything to save them. So that's like a foreshadowing of her and her son, possibly. Then I don't exactly remember the speech in Halloween 1 or how that relates, but then in the new 2018 one, the speech is something about the fate changing and she too can be happy. So they use that speech about fate and the different ways that they talk about fate to kind of describe the Laurie Strode character. Now she has the weird move where she decides that she's going to let him go. And he's already made plans to not go, so now he's got to figure out how he's going to not go and not let his mom know. The shit you pull when you're a kid, the sneaking around and all that bullshit, the effort put out just to see somebody or go somewhere that your parents don't know you're going. So you've got all this extra. Like, it's not a symphony orchestra thing. We're not supposed to be watching ballet or figure skating. It does work in the opening scene, though. The opening credits, I really like the way that the score plays. Just a lot of the scenes where Michael's pursuing them and stuff, it needs a lot more dun, 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 dun. Like, again, it's Scream and Halloween mixed together. If you're trying to sync up, if I lost you somewhere along the way, she just got scared by her mom. So that's Jamie Lee Curtis's real life mom. And that's a big reason why she actually got the original movie. She had some kind of, she had cred in the horror world because her mom was in Psycho. So they thought that would be a way to kind of lure people in to watch Halloween, as if they found out that Jamie Lee Curtis was in it. And it turned out the way it turned out. We don't know exactly how much of the success was because of that, but hey, can't argue with the result. She gives her this kind of sweet motivational speech and then tells her Happy Halloween, which they do a lot in these movies. I don't ever tell anybody Happy Halloween except for maybe my son or somebody who gives him candy while we're trick-or-treating. It's not really a, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, Happy New Year type holiday. And then again, shots of the buses. This feels very Scream-like, like almost like when they close the school and all the kids are leaving. School's out for summer. But even the music on that was better than this. It's kind of strange. My opinion of this movie was higher before I started getting in depth into all of them and really paying attention and doing commentary and reviews. As I'm watching it now, I'm actually losing a bit of the respect that I had for it. It's not as good as I thought it was. It's almost like Halloween Light. Like if you were going to try to introduce somebody slowly to the Halloween franchise and you didn't want something that's going to fuck up the lore necessarily at all, you just kind of wanted to get them interested in the characters, but not over the top with the gore and the scariness, this might be a good one. Like the first one to watch with your kid or something. I know you kind of want to start chronologically and go back to the original, but the original is legitimately terrifying in parts. And that can get creepy. This one is creepy, but it's, again, cleaner, smoother. It doesn't have as many, sharp objects in your eyeball. I gotta let my dog in. Oh, the pain and torture of animals. It was supposed to snow tonight, but like happens most nights when they forecast snow, they slowly pull it back. It starts off as it's going to be some disastrous shit, and then by the time it gets to be game time, nothing happens, which was the case tonight. It was gonna snow for 4 hours and mix with rain. It was gonna be a horrible morning, and there ain't shit out here. It's been a remarkably mild winter, honestly. I live in the Portland area, and we haven't had, I think we might have had a handful of days where it's even dropped below freezing here. It was getting up into the mid-50s last week. He's way too comfortable in the scene with his car just being outside the gate. And he's not looking around a whole bunch. His conversations on the phone with his wife are great, though. And I actually just realized the last time I was watching this, because I do brush up on them just a little bit before I do the commentaries, just so I have some idea where I'm going to go. I noticed that the Ronnie character lives. I totally had forgotten about that. So there was an offshoot there. He could have been in the next one. I almost wonder if he was supposed to play the Buster Rhymes character and have run Dangertainment with his wife, and he didn't like the script, or he didn't sign on, or he was doing Any Given Sunday. I don't know what happened there, but they definitely could have used Ronnie in future films, because he doesn't die. Now Michael has killed the phone, so there's a suspicious car and the phones are dead. You should be a little more panicked. Do you have a gun? Or is this bullshit security? I'm sending my kid to a boarding school to live far away from where I am. The security guard at the front gate's having a gun. I don't give a fuck. So she has that moment where she hears the noise and she willingly decides not to investigate it. And then I think she is going to attribute it to the girls here in a second. She just thinks it's them up there fucking around. But she actually makes the conscious decision that she's not going to go back there and check what that noise was. Which I think is interesting, because even if it was legit, what's the best that's going to come of it? Let's just keep moving. And she's also at this point, nothing's happened for years, and so she's so paralyzed by her fear and it's only been fear for 20 years. So she really is convinced that it's all in her head. I believe this is really him walking towards her right now. And this is a scene where I'm talking about where the original music for this was garbage. They had to redo it. Now he comes in from the side, but after they have their conversation, he turns around and he sees Michael cutting off into the shrubs. So that was really Michael walking down the hill towards her. Which again is not very Michael style. He doesn't just come straight at you like that. He would be over looking at him from behind this tree here in this shot. Then he'd sneak around, look from behind another thing. I don't know that he'd be playing mind games with her in that way, by just, what if this guy didn't walk up? Was he just going to walk up and have the confrontation with her right then? See, as he starts to walk away, we get Michael again. Michael. Leave those people. See, and there's even Scream 2 on the TV. Like, it's actually... In Scream 2, the guy who wears the Ghostface costume is the same guy that plays Michael in this movie. They even actually got the guy from Scream 2. It's just got Scream written all over it. This is very reminiscent of what a teenage girl would have a conversation with an adult about at that point in time. It was the Attitude Era. It was, if you're a WWE fan, you know what that means, but it really was the don't give a fuck, push the envelope era in America. It was America, fuck yeah, to its fullest. And people were smart asses, and people, were okay with joking around. We had our flaws, but it was nothing like today. It was a better time, in my opinion. Plus, the internet was just breaking. We weren't totally consumed with it. Like, it was just kind of this ancillary thing. Nobody really saw what it was going to be. I would use it to, check the score of the baseball game yesterday or go onto a chat room. But I don't think anybody ever saw it having all the answers to everything ever. Like... So, like, these kids, none of them are fucking around on their phone. They're not worried about text messages and anything. They're just together and having fun. And I don't know how often that happens anymore. She does have a pretty dope-ass pad. And she's a disciplined alcoholic, chasing it with that mouthwash. Fuck you, man. You know how long that's going to take? I just cleaned the kitchen. We're going to be making a mess. Thought you were going to eat my box. I don't want to carve a jack-o'-lantern. I'm trying to relax over here. Don't you know how to make a woman feel good? You say that now. So many candles. Why would you... Like, how long did it take to light all those? I always thought it was funny that they say that they cook the fucking school's dinner things for the week. Like, what are the kids going to eat when they get back from the trip? What's everybody going to eat if you're just you made their shit from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday or whatever it was? Somehow forgot the wine cork. You're carrying all that shit and you forgot the wine cork. That's a lot of globes. Why do you need so many globes? You just have a pile of globes? Except for when you do research projects on globes? I think that's a carrot she drops in his mouth. No, they have to do the rest of this scene with him having the carrot in his mouth. He's sucking on it and chewing it and, like, it's fucking weird. Why have the carrot? Why do we need that? Couldn't they just been kissing? Did she have to drop a carrot in his mouth? She's got them decorative candles back there that aren't even lit. Thought it was interesting he laughs there. Is he just think the name is funny? Or does he not believe her? And I think it's weird that they try to, like, hang on the age correlation. Like, she was 17, her sister was 17, now the son's 17, so that's why Michael's coming back. Like, who gives a flying fuck? Honestly. Like, how was Michael even aware of that this kid existed? And then he's like, okay, gotta wait till his 17th birthday. He marked it on his calendar. That didn't even exist yet because it was 17 years in the future. That's the Thorn tattoo. The Thorn tattoo started as a 17 and then just it's a prison tattoo, so the ink kind of just melded together and turned into a thorn. So he's aware of the story, even though that happened in Illinois and they're in California. I guess it was a national thing. So this is like real shit. She's opening up to him. She thinks that they might have some future as a couple. You don't just give that information up easy. And now it's hitting him that he's bitten off maybe a little bit more than he wanted to chew. Yeah, and a bunch of cigarettes. You smoke in your house, right? Okay, I'm smoking in here. He's almost underplaying how shocked he should be. I'd be up and pacing around if I found this out. I'd be like, we got to go to the gun store right now.
So you have been living with this
We need to shoot some flares into the sky and light a bonfire. Are we the only two people on this fucking campus? What did we do? Why didn't you tell me? I would have gone camping.
He's at a sanitarium.
I would rather be a guidance counselor in the woods than dead at the school.
And then one rainy night, he decides to go trick-or-treating.
It's a trick for you and a treat for him. See here, she has like this revelation, like there's some big correlation with the age of 17. Like, how would Michael know that her son is 17? Why would he care?
Do you think they made it to Yosemite?
17's the golden age. They're not quite legal yet. Once they're 18, it becomes too difficult. I don't I don't really get it. Those green glass lampshades, everybody had those back then. I don't understand it. Why is that better than a regular lampshade? Does it concentrate the light better? You'd have less glare. Playitgotcaught.com. You got to cover your tracks a little bit better than that. How often does he go camping? All of his shit's in the front of the closet right there. She does have the gun. She is a bit prepared. She should have like 12 of them. I was listening to Rogan's podcast with Killer Mike, and Killer Mike's like, I think every family needs 5 guns at a minimum. It was hilarious. It's like, I thought he was going to be like, you need one for the car, one for the stroller. But he was like talking about specific types. He's like, you to deal with this threat, you need a shotgun. Deal with this threat, you need that. You got your wife's one for the purse. I thought it was pretty funny, and I'm down for that. I have a 5-year-old, however, so it becomes a bit sketch. It sucks that we didn't get to see the boyfriend murdered. We just get to see the kind of the aftermath, and it's not even a great looking kill. Oh, he's not dead yet. My bad.
Mom, I'm hungry. Where are you going now?
Would the school even have a corkscrew? What is the school serving that they need a corkscrew for? He's riding like the dish shaft or whatever the hell that thing is. Sorry for that gross ass sound. My dog is going to start whining at me if she doesn't get water. So food and water are coming up. Carrying around my phone so I can still record, but I don't have eyes on the movie at the moment. Shit's always got to happen when you're in the middle of something. Okay, so I'm back. This was a great tension building moment, but it didn't really pay off as well. Like, just reach in there and fucking grab it. The switch isn't going to flip itself. He has no reason to think that anything's going to happen to him. Plus, you can grab that thing and your fingers aren't even close to the teeth. The worst that would happen if it turned on is that it would flip the corkscrew around and slam it into your hand. So this is the digital mask. The fucking bullshit. What? Look at that thing. Kick him in the balls and run. Give him that super surprised face. There's a couple times in this movie that are even kind of funny. And, I mean, it is what it is. You don't really like Michael looking goofy, but they do it to him in a couple spots, and I laugh. One of them is when he gets kneed in the balls, and he's got that super, like, surprised look on his face. Plus, the eye holes in the mask are so big, and it's so close up to his face that you can really see him. And the other one is when he goes to stab Lori, and she holds up the drawer, and he stabs through it, and the knife gets stuck. And he fucking starts shaking the drawer around like he's trying to get the knife. It reminds me of like a dog that accidentally steps over the leash with their front leg and trying to get they just can't quite figure it out. He's like, or like a kid trying to put a square peg in a round hole. He's just like, what the fuck is going on here? See, that's the goofy mask. Kind of far away shot, so it's harder to tell. I think they used the kind of alien looking wide-eyed sleek mask for that whole shot. If they didn't, they didn't need to switch it out because it wasn't well lit enough for you to tell what his face looked like anyhow. I don't think it would be that difficult to get your foot out from under him. His leg probably weighs 30 pounds. Oh, but that would fucking kill. God damn it. I always felt like it would have been harder for her to drag her foot out of there, too. The amount of pressure on it. See, now we're back to that mask. The hair is really off on the mask, and it just doesn't have the right cheekbone structure. It's just, did they use the Shatner mold? What are you people doing? Yes, a Michael Myers mask is its own thing, but it is made from a William Shatner mask. That's just what it is. You start with that, because that's what it is. There is no separate mold. They're the same. And they all just try to do their own thing, and it does, like the digital idea. Do you think you're going to make a digital mask that comes off as the original? Fuck off. At this point in time, we couldn't even make Madden characters that didn't look like cubes. They look like little block people running around. They look like they were out of Minecraft or Roblox or something, honestly. They were really blocky. Pile of globes again. Have to have the pile of globes near the kitchen. Tomato sauce. Corn syrup. Just like my mom puts on her spaghetti. Or no, what does he say? Ketchup, just like my mom puts on her spaghetti. It's not a joke, bro, but your hairstyle is. She cute. She reminds me of the girl that was in Girl Next Door. She's on the ranch now. I don't know her real name. But man, when the Girl Next Door came out, I was in high school. That movie hit home. Too real. Too real. God damn, she was hot. Now, is the light bulb like inside her, or I didn't really ever get that? They didn't show it clear enough. You wonder if Jamie ever, or Laurie, ever showed him what Michael looked like, if he knows who that is, or if he's just scared and runs. You wonder if she's ever talked about it with him. And Michael's fucking superhuman stealth mode just pops out of nowhere. This music. Hey, those were a few good right hands. At least he tried. But then Michael stabs him in the leg. Like that's a really passive stab. He wouldn't just go for him. At that point, you realize Josh Hartnett's going to live. They didn't kill off any characters we really care about. And see, the mask is different now. Now it's that sleeker, whiter one. I don't really know how to describe it besides it's like a big-eyed alien thing. And he's going to be wearing that mask clear up until the close-up where he sees Laurie. It makes his head look small. This is a great scene, though, at least the way it's written and plays out, because that would be scary as fuck. You drop your keys over there, you can't reach them, he finds them, and you're trapped over there, and it's just a matter of time until he figures out which key's the right one and gets in and just fillets your ass. This is a good shot from this angle, but when they show him pressed up against the fucking fence like he's trying to fuck through a glory hole right there, I don't like that shot. Doesn't seem Michael-like. He's still wearing that weird mask. Like, can you just decide on a good mask before you film half the movie so that we don't have to deal with this weird cut job shit? And now, bam, to that mask. Shit just got real for her. She knows what's up. Pull that gun out of your waistband. What do you think happened, Laurie? Can I call you Laurie? Or do you prefer Carrie? I like that with the drapes blowing and stuff because they give you that kind of feel in the original one. Like any window that's open, any doorway, any possibility that you left, any part of your ass you didn't cover, Michael is going to get in there and he's going to eat it. And you might like it a little bit. You're going to be shy about it at first. You're going to be like, no, that's like my stinky spot. But once he gets a little bit of work in, you're going to love it. I feel like it's weird, like the way he's like guiding her with his arms as she's walking. Like, what are you doing, dude? She has the gun. You're protecting her. Now, right here, he's going to shoot Ronnie. But the flash before he shoots Ronnie, this is actually Michael that it's going to show walking around the corner. You could see the mask in the jumpsuit. It's Michael. So I guess just like in this moment of pure terror and shock, his brain just shoots out, just is trying to interpret the image so quickly it tells him it's Michael, and then he sees that it's not. Is that what they're going with? Because they definitely showed Michael walking around that corner. You could see the mask. They don't show the wound. I guess the bullet just like zipped by his head, which obviously, nice shooting, Tex. Like, what the fuck? I like this callback to the second one with the nurse, and the kill is shot well, but look at how he's standing beside him like that. Do you know how much leverage you would need to lift somebody up like that off their feet with a knife from beside them, or staggered that way? Another thing, Michael's hands aren't scarred up. He shows no damage from any of the previous shit. If this is ignoring all the sequels after 2, the last time we saw him, he was collapsing in a blaze of fucking blazing inferno. I was almost in a blaze of glory. He scoots back there like a toddler. He looks stupid right there. Oh, God. But yeah, even as bad as 5 and 6, they maintain at least a little bit of continuity with the fact that Michael's taken on some damage over this time. He's not just regenerated into a perfect being again. Shitty mask again. None of them are good, but the one that they used for the close-up shots is definitely better than this weird alien, sleek, small-headed one. This stalking, chasing, Michael's a come around and pop up and surprise you kind of guy. He's not just a walk after you. Stupid mask and regular mask. That's a heavy-duty gate. You can't just smash into that fucker. You might disable your vehicle if you do that. That's a wrought iron fucking gate. It's there for a reason. It's not just decorative. I get this. They're kind of trying to build towards this moment, and it's this weird character, or not weird, but it's this great character turn where she finally decides to stand up for herself, and she's going to go pursue her beast. But I don't really like it. I don't know. If you're going to stand up for yourself, why didn't you just do it when you were there and there was 3 of you? Come up with a plan. I don't like the smashing the gate either. Now you don't want to be able to escape ever. When people show up, how are they going to get in? It's badass that she grabs the axe and she's carrying it around. But I do have to point out that she's a relatively petite woman and that axes are pretty fucking heavy. And they're heavy at the end. When you wield them, they have a momentum to them. They swing you around with it, especially if you're a light person and you're not that strong. It's not a great weapon for her to pick because she's going to move it slow, and it's going to be hard for her once she does swing to bring it back if she misses. I know these are weird things to analyze, but I'm into fighting and that kind of thing, and these are realistic issues you would have to consider. He's got a knife that he can move very quickly. he has to be closer to you. But he could probably close that distance faster than you can swing that axe. And if he can get you to swing that axe before he closes the distance, you're fucked, because you're never going to get it back up and swing again before he gets to you. I really like that shot and the idea. It does seem a little bit far-fetched that he'd be able to hang up there, but I guess if he had his one arm and then like his legs wrapped around that pipe, and then no homo, and when she walked by, he let go with his legs and kind of slowly lowered himself down. This scene was actually written for Halloween 4. He was supposed to be in the school chasing Jamie through all the desks and flipping them, etc. But they didn't get it in there. I don't know if it was budget or what the issue was. But so they used it in this one, and it is a great scene. It's just a real great visual moment that sticks with you. And another thing that I don't know if people notice, but for continuity, so you can see that the legs of the tables on the floor, these are like shitty folding tables. But then you see that big sturdy wood leg right there. That's of a table over the top of it so that he can stand on them, because he wouldn't be able to walk on those flimsy-ass tables. But later, when he's flipping them, they need those flimsy-ass light tables because he wouldn't be able to flip these big wood bitches. But they also knew that she's rolling around on the floor and you're going to be able to see the legs. So for the continuity, later when she's going through and he's flipping them, they basically put big wood tables over the top of these shitty folding tables so that they could get both the effect of him walking and then later the flipping, and not have a continuity issue with the legs. See, now he's flipping them, and they needed it to look the same when she was under the tables. And this is the part that was supposed to be in 4, which would have been a great scene in 4, too. Have a little kid crawling under desks. God damn it, the shitty mask. They shot so much of this using a bad mask. Like, I don't get it. Was that what he wore in the scene, and then they planned on digitally imposing something over that, and when they tried it, it didn't work? I don't know. That's a treasure chest. Why did you dump it out? You could have grabbed them right from where they were. Yeah, you're not a knife-throwing champion. This probably isn't the best strategy. You're just losing knives by the minute. Now, here's the great part. He stabbed. Oh! And now watch him try to get it out. He's like a confused animal or something. Oh, man. Now we have the little bit of the reversal. Oof. That was a pretty half-assed fucking stab attempt there, Michael. She's going at him with these little knives, though. And I love that fall. On second thought, I'm glad they didn't bring Ronnie back. His character's a fucking dipshit. She goes down and tries to finish the show right now. Finish him. And Ronnie stops her. Like, she could have sat down there and just fucking meleeed on that guy for 20, 30 more stabs with those knives. Just let her unlock all that rage. You want to kill the rage, Michael? You have to go back to where it started. Go back to where the rage began, Michael. The girl will be there. Like, he's pretty fucked up at this point. She got him with that flagpole, and then he took a good stabbing with those kitchen knives. One's still stuck in him. That was in about 3 inches, probably. He did. He did. He did. He did. Why would you be so confident? And then she just lets him carry her away. Like, fuck you, dude. I will kill you if you don't let me do this. So you can get a real good shot of the contour of the cheek there. Like, there's almost none. It's too smooth, straight down. The original Shatner mask had some pretty defined cheekbones. See, instead of writing a thriller, you could be like, I'm gonna create dangertainment. So if this is supposed to be the paramedic, why are his eyes closed and he's just going through the motions of being put in? Spoilers, I mean, I don't know why you'd be listening to this commentary if you haven't seen this movie before, but this whole final scene, that's not actually Michael. And the way that they kind of try to play that off, it's just not knowing where they take it with Resurrection, just what you get from this movie. This is a pretty good scene, I think. This is a great resolution to her and her monster. She's going, exorcise the demons. And really, how could you ever have peace of mind if you're this character again, unless, you saw something as final as getting his head chopped off? Or like in the new one, Loomis says, electrocute him until he's dead and then immediately burn his body. And he wants to be there to watch until the remains are nothing. Like, you need 100% confirmation that this motherfucker is gone. And this is almost like a callback to the ambulance scene in 4. So she seems to know that he's not actually dead. He's just biding his time and he's going to pop out. So she takes off with this is a coroner's van or something. I thought they used hearses or some shit, but that looks like the worst equipped van for hauling a dead body I've ever seen. There's no panels or anything on the inside even. But he's out, and he would be expecting like a paramedic or something, and Lori's there. It's like, shit, you party here too? Another callback to 4. He does almost that exact same thing, except for he's on the outside of the car. And he actually smashes his face into the windshield and looks stupid in that movie. And then we have almost this exact same thing play out. You're too slumped in the sit-up. If he couldn't do the sit-up better, don't shoot it. And they shot that better than they did in 4, because in 4, it looks like a crash test dummy just slamming its head off the hood of the car. It looks pretty goofy. How he manages to end up magically pinned against this tree before the van gets down there, he would have fallen off the van way back when, and it would have gone tumbling down the hill, and he would have slowly come to a stop. But there's a weight issue there. The van weighs way more than them, so they get flung out, and that thing is gone. They're not going to tumble down the hill faster than the van. Nice touch to have the fire, I guess. It doesn't explode, though, which I'm glad for. I hate stupid fucking cars touch a brick wall in a movie and they fucking explode. But if the car's not going to explode, then why have the little tiny fire start? Fire starter. So at this point, in 98, when you're watching it, you're like, shit, this is it. Somebody finally solved the fucking riddle. And they're going to take down the shape, the evil that is Michael Myers. The Beast. You want to talk about beast mode? Go fuck yourself. Michael Myers is beast mode. That hospital scene in Halloween 6, that's beast mode. Another thing they got away from is calling him like the boogeyman, the shape. There's a lot of just referring to him as Michael or as a person in the later movies. They bring that back though in 2018. They bring back the referring to him as the shape. They don't, he's not human. Oh, let's have this weird sympathy moment. Is he going to cry and take off his mask like in fucking 5? You know this has to be a ploy, right, Lori? Why would he want to... They do always hint at the fact that he doesn't really want to do it, though. And if you go with the lore introduced in 6, that's actually originates in the novelization of Halloween 1, he doesn't want to do it. But yeah, you get that and you're like, okay, it's fucking final chapter. They decided to put a fork in this one. It's done. And it was a decent enough movie to have pulled that off. I mean, it wasn't... like I said before, it's Scream and Halloween mashed together. It's pretty polished up. It's sanitary. It's clinical. There's not a lot of twists and turns that are shocking. There's not a lot of character development into the people who eventually get killed. We don't really care that they get killed. You have a lot of survivors. This Ronnie's security guard, Josh Hartnett, his girlfriend, Lori. It's just, it doesn't push the envelope as much as some of the other ones did. But they were also dialing it back because 6 was really pushing the envelope, and there's really almost no way that you can be into 6 unless you're a hardcore fan. You're going to lose almost all the general audience with that fucking movie because it's so complicated and really doesn't even make sense when you do understand it. So this was a nice one for getting us back into, you know, this was the most legit Halloween that it came out in my lifetime at this point. I was 11 years old. 4, 5, and 6 came out during my lifetime, but they just weren't legit Hollywood, theater movies the same way this was. But it also took us into this kind of MTV reality show, pop culture realm in the next one, and that got horrible and really just killed the storyline and the lore of the franchise altogether. So this was a reboot, and then one movie later they fucked it over again. It is the launching pad for Josh Hartnett. This was his first movie. We got the return of Laurie Strode as Jamie Lee Curtis. She thought she was ending the character, though, and they kind of pulled a bait and switch on her. She didn't know that the Accods have like a rule book for Halloween movies, and one of the rules is that you can never kill Michael Myers. So they knew the whole time that they weren't going to really go through with this and follow through with him being dead. And that's one of the only reasons she agreed to come back, because she was just going to close up shop. It was going to be over. She was going to resolve this. Nobody was going to be able to ask her about it anymore. It was going to be end that chapter. And so then to bring her back for like that little fucking 2-minute roll in 8 and just kill her off in that stupid way it would have been much better if this was the end of her and just go another direction with it. But we are married to her being the sister and him trying to kill his family still. So, clean sanitary edition with a odd score, weird fucking mask choices, and just not an overall real Halloween feel or Michael Myers feel. It's just it's the radio version. Back in the day when we had explicit versions and radio versions, I guess they still do that. This is the radio version Halloween. This is, it's kind of been boiled down and streamlined and meant to have mass appeal. A few callbacks for the hardcore fans, but not over-the-top gore. Just not real true to the franchise. Having said that, I don't hate it. I watch it reasonably often. It's one of the ones that you can kind of just take in more. It doesn't provoke quite as many thoughts, I guess. It's a more relaxed watch because you're not getting involved with the lore and all those types of things. And I've actually said before that that's some of the mistakes that the other movies make. You don't have to base the story of the film around why Michael kills. You don't even need to tread there at all. You just need a story taking place where Michael kills. So you can have the story based around other characters, and they're living their life, and they're having whatever conflicts, and we're developing their story. And then Michael inserts himself there and starts killing people. And then you can just repeat that format over and over again. But they got on this track of explaining why he kills, and each movie went further and farther and farther down that fucking road until we had to reboot it with this, and then they didn't touch any of that, which is, I mean, partially why it makes it so digestible as a single serving movie. Like I said, you could introduce it to your kid as their first Halloween movie, and it's not going to be over the top scary and gory, and it's easily digestible because there's not so much, you know, fucking ruins and druids and all this curses and shit. So, I appreciate you tuning in to the commentary of Halloween H20. Please like and subscribe. Check out my podcast on Avarice Podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud. Avarice Trading on YouTube. Until the next time, this is Devin saying, be easy.